Hello, my name is Jacob Kaler, and I am doing my rebuttal to Noran's arguments on economic interdependence and neoliberalism. So, one of the points that Noran makes in her debate is that we can kind of overcome human nature and the propensity for violence in human nature with education, with discovering personal peace, and with basically giving everyone the necessary resources to thrive, whether that's money or education or whatever. And by doing that, we can sort of make people less inclined towards violence. And through that, we can sort of make the world peaceful. But I disagree with that. I believe in the realist position on human nature, which is human nature is fundamentally inclined towards anarchy and self-interest, and that because of that, violence will always exist. Um, Human nature, I think, is such that we're willing to sort of shoot ourselves in the foot if it means hurting the people that we don't like. Um, and we've seen that throughout history, and that it can't exist for these ideas to really work. A recent example is some of the Black Lives Matter riots that have happened. They've done a lot of rioting on local businesses and stuff, and those are statistically shown to damage the entire area around them by doing things like having the poverty rates go up and having income go down in those areas after local businesses are hit by riots. And we've seen that in the 60s riots that happened. And we're going to see that again. And so the people that live in that area are willing to riot still, even though it will hurt them down the line. And so that's a pretty big issue for the central arguments of neoliberalism. Secondly, even if we sort of accept the fundamental arguments of neoliberalism, like say, yeah, that like their arguments are valid, that it can happen that we can reach to the world to a point that the world is so interconnected that we can't really fight each other, we're still going to see violence because, for instance, if the US decided, let's attack Luxembourg, then no one would really be able to stop us from destroying Luxembourg. Um, Even if the entire world came together, we'd be in for a lot of pain afterwards, but they couldn't really stop us. And even in a super interconnected world, the US will never be dependent on Luxembourg. We'll never really care unless some super rare mineral that has yet to be discovered is found only in Luxembourg in the future. We won't really care, whereas Luxembourg will care very much about the US because we are such an economic power and a cultural power. We have a lot of influence over them. They're very dependent on us for a lot of things, but we're not dependent on them in any way, so we can kind of do what we want in regards to them. Secondly, even if we even if we take all the arguments of neoliberalism and accept them as true, that we can stop violence through interconnectedness and all that, it still wouldn't fix the world because, as I said, some people will be more dependent than others, and nations will still fight just economically rather than militarily. We've seen this with the US-China trade wars. If either of them actually went to war against each other, we would see the destruction of the global economy. We're just too dependent on each other. China needs us to buy their stuff, and we need China to make cheap stuff and to keep buying the US dollar and US debt. But we've seen under President Trump, trade wars happening where the two sides are fighting, but just economically rather than militarily. And that's caused a lot of disruption. So even in a world where we're still like super connected, human nature will still play a role, and that's demonstrated there. The only way to sort of bring balance, to bring complete interdependence on all nations equally, would be like communism or something, like a very extreme form of communism, which kind of goes against the ideas of economic interdependence because that's very anti capitalist, where we'd have to find some way to distribute resources equally across all people so that no one person is dependent on another person, or no one person is too dependent on one person and that person isn't dependent on the first person, and there's just no conceivable way to do that in the modern world. So that is my rebuttal. Thank you.